beating their child in the supermarket, that doesn't mean, oh, it's just truth, it's okay. No. You go and say stop, or you get the police, or whatever you have to do to get involved. It's the middle path. Don't take it to an extreme and say, well, it's, like I said, just truth as it is, so he can rape and kill and murder and all that. No. I just want to make that clear. And the third story teaches what I just talked about, function. Just do it. Action. It shows a relationship as well, because the Buddha was a teacher, he was a guide. So in every relationship and situation, we have to have correct function. His function at that moment was to show that he was the teacher and that his teaching went beyond death and beyond this body. But I think it also shows, once again, like I was just talking about, we have to have correct function. All this philosophy, all these stories are wonderful, and they're good teaching tools. But ultimately, if all this just stays in our head as some mental gymnastics, as my mom likes to call it, I love that, what good does it do? We have to put it in action. We have to use that clarity of mind of being right here, right now, to be as useful and skillful and loving and compassionate, whatever the moment calls for. Hopefully, most of the time, it's compassion and love. Sometimes, like we've talked about it does require anger or sadness or whatever. Sometimes, I think we talked about last week, it's like the mirror mind. Well, if someone comes up crying, does it help for me necessarily to cry in return? Just to mirror that mind completely? I mean, it might, yeah, if you're truly and genuinely touched, yeah, cry, but it might, instead of me just going, ooh, I'm sorry, give you a hug, how can I help? That's correct function. And I'll end on this note, two things. I wanted to read, for some reason the last paragraphs are always awesome. On page 256, the very last paragraph, it says, then after he died, the Buddha taught everyone about correct function. In that situation, with all the students' minds so moved by his death, the Buddha showed them some kind of do-it action. This tells us that when we just completely do something, there is no life and no death. The name for that is great function. Attain that everything is the same universal substance, and then you can attain everything in this world is true. If you attain these things, you can then perceive clearly, I'll add, how to use this perception of truth to function clearly and compassionately for others from moment to moment. We keep bringing it back to 360 degrees. It's about real world practice. That's why practice is so important in Zen. But the last thing I wanted to add that really hit me when I read this week was, yeah, it's great to wear these robes. I like, it's a joy and a passion of mine to start this group a year ago and to help lead it and this, that, and the other. But ultimately, it's for y'all. I would love to see all of you eventually become teachers yourself. Maybe not in robes and leading a sangha, but just teaching in your own lives. And you already are, of course. But it's not just about me. It's about everyone here. And I hope that you all get something from it. And I'm assuming that's why you return week to week. It's not about ego Jeremy hour or even necessarily the forms of bowing to the Buddha. It's how do we take this practice, apply it in our lives to bring some peace and compassion and clarity into the world. And I really challenge you all. It's wonderful y'all show up every week. Every week I'm so blown away, almost to tears while I'm meditating, how wonderful it is that y'all show up every week and practice, that there's other like-minded people. But yeah, just continue to challenge yourselves. You are the Buddha. The historical Buddha was wonderful. He was a conduit, a mouthpiece. But he's dead. He's gone. We'll all die one day too. But that true essence of us as Buddha nature is very alive and real right here, right now. In every single one of us. So that's the message. And now that I've done, as I always say, yapping, I would love to hear from y'all if you have any questions.
I have a petty question.
Yes, sir.
It just occurred to me. When Mahakashyapa smiled back at Buddha, or smiled at Buddha, is your read that Buddha saw that he had awakened, or was that the actual moment? In other words, did he awaken from that little transaction they had between them? You ever thought of that?
I have, and it's funny, I don't know if it was through my readings over the years. It's interesting he placed the stories in the position. I don't know if there was, if supposedly he sat beside him first, or if from all my reading over the years, and maybe it was just the way I read it, was that the flower happened first. That was supposedly the beginning of Zen.
But was it when he held the flower up and suddenly Mahakashyapa smiled back? Mm-hmm. Was that the transmission, or was that Buddha's recognition that Mahakashyapa had gotten it already?
I think it was both.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, I'm only speaking from my opinion, like you asked. I can't say that 100%, but yes, someone else may argue differently, but my understanding was when he held up the flower and he saw the smile on Mahakashyapa's face, he didn't even have to think about it. It was just that shared experience. And then maybe it was almost an afterthought, because first it was like, and then it was like maybe, yes, he's got it. Because it was before words, when they just had the shared experience of the flower and the smile. And it was maybe even more of an afterthought of like, yes, now Mahakashyapa has done it. Come sit beside me, or something of that nature. But yeah, I see the difference.
I just wonder whether if the Buddha had not held up the flower at that moment, and Mahakashyapa was still sitting out there, would he have gotten it, or was he already sitting out there and he was 80 years old, he's been sitting with the Buddha for years and years, he had gotten it, it was just this moment that was...
My understanding is that, and once again, that's only my understanding, that was the moment he had that maybe initial experience. He was very close, like many of his other students. And there's a very famous story too about Ananda. You know the story about Ananda? Ananda was the Buddha's personal servant and attendant. He was his closest student for the vast majority of his life. But the funny thing is, when the Buddha died, supposedly Ananda had not gained enlightenment. And Ananda was a person with an extremely powerful mind. The myth, or it may be truth, is that he literally remembered almost every Dharma speech that the Buddha gave. So that later, after the Buddha died, he would recite all these and everyone else would remember. There were certain monks that had special abilities. Some were really good on all the, what they're called Vinayana, or the rules of the monastic order. Everyone had their special abilities, but his was remembering the word of Buddha. And even though he had this wonderful mind, he spent almost literally every waking moment and sleeping moment right at the side of the Buddha, and yet he had not gained enlightenment. So when the Buddha died and they had the first conference to decide what we would do with the Sangha and what would be the rules and this, that, and the other, and who would be the leaders, they actually said to Ananda, you can't come in, because the people that officially made all the decisions were the ones that had been recognized as gaining enlightenment. So they literally locked the door, and they said, go out. And I can't remember what the story is. He was supposed to stand on one leg with his, on his tiptoes or something for I don't know how many hours or days or something. And then long story short, he does gain enlightenment, and he comes back. Because what they said was, until you can come through the door without using a key, that's how they'll know you gain enlightenment. So once again, it's a miracle story, but supposedly he shows up in the room with a locked door, and they know then that he had gained enlightenment. But my point is that was a very important thing. You could be really close. The people that talk about with just a little dust on their eyes. But until you actually had that experience, that was the true, I don't want to say test, but showing. And that was my understanding was Mahakashyapa's time. Each of the Buddha's disciples had their own different times and moments when they were supposedly had their enlightenment experiences. But that was Mahakashyapa's.
Perhaps one morning we'll be sitting here, and all at once we'll smile and the outside roof will glow.
And the funny thing is, like we say, we keep going back to, I mean, the reality is, there's one, that's the beauty of the Heart Sutra. Once again, Heart Sutra, I love it every time I read it, chant it. Takes us all the way through. That's the reason why supposedly it's the supreme mantra. It takes us all the way through the Zen circle. And part of it is there's nothing to attain, right? We're already Buddha. We really are. We just have to, like, once again, that's a great comparison of the dust on the eyes, or a dust on a mirror, or even in a book called A Course in Miracles that my mom teaches. They call it the veil. It's a foggy veil. It's just very light, almost like if you just went, it would just kind of dissipate. It's almost not real, but we believe so much in that veil, the dust, and everything else. We really are truly already there. There's nothing to attain.
Take darkness away.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
Mr.
just like,
Chen?
A guru is one who expels darkness.
it's just like waking up from a bad, it's not even necessarily a bad dream. It's just like waking up from any dream. Any dream, even if it's a good dream, a lot of those dreams seem really weird, real. I mean, I can't tell you, my wife, I told her recently we started working out again and taking some kind of protein powder. And I don't know what's in that protein powder, but I've been having some crazy dreams for a while now. Very vivid, very real. I mean, and I've always dreamt a lot my whole life and remembered them, but I swear that's the only thing I can
You
attribute
see
to.
Jay sitting in the kitchen.
Yeah. She's adding some things. Oh, really? Oh, you want to be mean to me again? No. But it's true. It's like some of these dreams is amazing. We've all had that experience. It just seems so real. And then you wake up and you're, in your bed.
That's that dream.
And this,
And
a lot of people say this is a dream.
And then there's this dream.
Now, the thing I'd be careful with that is, and that, once again, I go back to that book of A Course, the philosophy behind A Course in Miracles is that this is all a dream. Okay? I don't just think, I know the Buddha also taught a lot of times similar things, that you should look on this life as a flash of lightning, a bubble in a stream, a dream. But the Buddha said this world is not real, and it is not real. It's the truth, it's the middle path. The truth is somewhere in between. And it's so hard, you can't put words on it. This isn't a dream. If you go that extreme, you can say, oh, well, it's just a dream, I'll just do whatever I want. I'll rape and pillage and take money and whatever. You could see how someone could go that way. But if it's just real, the other extreme, then you can get so caught up and attached in every little thing, you'd be crying and sad and depressed. Oh, this happened, and oh, that happened. And the truth is somewhere in between, the middle path. That's another thing that's just been on my heart a lot recently, is just how profound and beautiful the middle path is between extremes of every philosophy in Buddhism and Zen. It's just, in the middle path just brings us right back, once again, right here, right now, over and over and over and over, right here, right now, without all the other filters and BS and crap. And sometimes, right, even in the moment, there's some real BS and crap you have to deal with. It's not, once again, that every single moment is always pure and beautiful. But a lot of times, if you really think about it, just sitting here or driving down the road, if you really let go of my worry, I felt horrible, depressed, or something I did in the past, or I'm worried about something in the future, most of the time, right here, right now, do you really have any real problem? Unless like a dog is literally attacking you, or you're swimming in the ocean and a shark comes up, or maybe literally your landlord's banging on your door saying you got to get kicked out because you can't pay the rent. Yeah, right then and there, it's very scary. Or the school shootings, someone's right there with a gun, of course, that's scary. And hopefully you can function in the right way. But most of the time, I think when we're real with ourselves, a lot of the extra added stress is just self-imposed. Any other thoughts about Mahakashapa or mind-to-mind transmission? We're at 11:11, so we got 4 minutes. That's another thing. I had the wonderful experience of realizing once again how much of a lovely Zen master my wife is.
A couple of weeks ago, you weren't here. Well, what would Jay say right now? And Jeremy was started to think what you would say. Everybody else knew what you would be saying.
It's 11:15. And then all of a sudden, even me, I was in my filters. Oh, what was my wife saying? And all of a sudden, it was like dawned on me.
I'm not gonna hold up the flower.
You're gonna
I'm gonna point it at the clock.
yes.
What does it say? And you smile.
Exactly. So my clock still says 11:12, so we still have 3 minutes. But if no one else has anything, we can finish early too. We don't have to finish at 11:15. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much once again. Next week we will read. Oh, 2 things. Next week we will read the next chapter, pointing directly to mind. 257. It's another very short chapter. I still haven't forgotten, like I said, what you brought from me, my friend Ken. We will incorporate that. We'll have another book, and I'll make some copies for people and bring it in when I do bring that in. He brought some nice teachings from Bernie class, and we'll break it up here and there. The last thing I wanted to say was we are for sure going to have our first retreat. It'll be a 6-hour retreat, kind of a half day, because we wanted to not bite off more than we could chew. And honestly, that's probably all we will ever do, at least in the near future. Ideally, we'd like to have 2 a year. Maybe as the group grows, or if we have some other setting or whatever, we may do something different. But for now, I think it's a good place to start. It'll be the last Sunday in February. More than likely, it will be here. I still haven't spoken with Mike Mandela. He's the. I need to get the official blessing from the manager here. But more than likely, we'll hold it here. If we can't have it here for some reason, if they think if I get a weird vibe or something, we want to be here
In
6 hours.
our place.
We'll have it at our house, which is right across the street almost in Kingshire, and we'll give you directions. I'd rather have it here just for everyone, you know where it is and this, that, and the other, but, I don't know, sometimes there's rules about if you're over some time. I think they'll be cool, and I think they'll let us have it, but if not, we'll do it at our house. What I was thinking as well is using some of the money we've collected and kept to have maybe like a small light breakfast and a small light lunch. It would all be vegetarian in the honor of having a true, almost any retreat you ever go to, the meals are usually vegetarian. So I was thinking maybe bagels and coffee in the morning and maybe some type of vegetarian sandwich or rice or some salad for lunch. But it would be, right now what I'm thinking is roughly 8 to 2. We'd eat a little breakfast before, we'd have our practice, and then have lunch after. And it would be alternating between sitting and walking, and I'm not going to have anything drawn out. It would probably be kind of what we're used to already, like 20-minute sit, maybe a 5 or 10 minute walk, 20-minute sit, 5 or 10 minute walk. We'll try to do, I'd like to have at least 1 or 2 chants that are a little different to expose people to chanting a little more. We'll have, I'm thinking maybe 1 Dharma talk and maybe 1 round robin where we kind of sit and we can discuss, our meditation practice. So it'll be a combination of things. I don't know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out an email, I'm going to put something on Facebook, but if people could just give me an idea of who might be interested in coming. Because if no one's going to come or show up, obviously we may change the date.
This is February 24th.
Yes.
Is it the 24th?
Last week, yes.
I thought it was the 29th for some reason. Whatever the last Sunday is that the last Sunday? Okay. February 24th.
I don't think there's a 29th this year.
Oh, that's right. It's right. It's not leap year. You're right. Sorry.
Even with transmission.
Yes, I am not perfect. But so we'll do that. If you could just email me or shoot me something on Facebook saying you're interested.
We all gonna have about this. We all send the invite. Invite, you can click yes, coming or not. Or through Facebook.
Way, the idea I thought too was for people who can't come for the 6 hours, I originally thought we'd incorporate it. Like, there'd people that'd be here for the 6 hours and we'd meet before our normal practice time of say 8. But from 10 to 11:15, we'd almost have our regular practice session and people could come in and then leave and then continue on. That was kind of originally what I was thinking. But if everyone wants to show up, obviously we don't need to do that. It just kind of depends on who's coming and who's not, I guess.
Okay.
But one way or the other, that's what it'll be. Thank you very much, everyone.
I have a suggestion. Instead of using the money